So, Michael Graham, welcome back. And I've got an excuse. I've got a balcony over my toy shop, and it's not down to the huge amounts of beer I drink. It's all down to those potholes, mate.
I just love the idea that there's some, tubbo sitting on his sofa, with his full half gallon or whatever your metric system is, whatever, of ice cream, binge watching Netflix, and Jessica Jones going, I wouldn't be sitting here shoving this down my gullet if it weren't for that pothole 4 blocks away. I'm not going to run all the way down. I mean, that is hilarious. Look, here's the deal about exercise. You could literally pay people to exercise and they still wouldn't exercise because people don't like to exercise because it sucks. It's boring. It's hard. It makes you sweat. It's tiring. I mean, it's fun. They're not going to do it. And it's crazy to say, well, if only we would do X. It doesn't matter what you do. People aren't going to do it.
And as we know, it's not rocket science. It's rocket salad. If you take in more than you burn, you're going to end up a porker like me. But I don't see why. And this is a government-funded organisation, and we hear a lot over here, as I know you're aware as a top journalist, and thanks for doing this for us again, Mike, but we hear a lot about a cash-strapped NHS and government, and there is no government money. There's only my money. I'll give them in tax money. But they're wasting it getting a health agency to tell councils to repair the roads.
The things you guys waste your time and money on, it's just, I'm in Massachusetts, so I'm used to crazy, loony, lefty stuff. But the UK, you guys have gone off the rails. And this new program now, it's illegal to use offensive language on the trains. If you, in Scotland has these signs up at the train stations. Apparently, like if you say something that someone takes as anti-whatever, anti-person of color, anti-Muslim, you can go to freaking jail. You just put a guy, you just convicted a guy because he taught his dog to raise its paw when the guy said Sieg Heil. This comedian, troublemaking YouTube guy with 3 million hits is facing jail time. You're going to put someone in jail for teaching his pug to do a trick? It's crazy.
I mean, I must say, I think there should be self-imposed limits on free speech. And I don't like it if I'm on a train and I hear people swearing and effing and blinding. But then I'll have a word with them. I don't think we need to involve the law, do we?
Why do you want to put people in jail for words? They are words. We have this thing in the States: sticks and stones may break my bones, words will never hurt me.
I think actually, you stole that from us. That's originally a British saying.
I don't doubt it at all. We stole all the best stuff. Well, that's America. You've got good stuff that will make you money. Bring it here, steal it, and bring it over here, and we will make you rich and make you a hero. We're happy to do that. But it's just the idea of criminalizing words. And in the UK, you guys are much more comfortable with this than here in the US. And I don't get it. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? An idea? You're going to confront an idea? I mean, I don't want some idiot saying, look at that guy over there, that, whatever, something on his head, and then using disparaging comments about someone from the Middle East or Muslims. That's a jerk thing to do. I have no problems getting up and sitting in a different part of the train or saying, hey, don't talk that way around me. But the idea you're going to slam the cuffs on the guy and take him down to the jailhouse is just, you got to be kidding me.
I mean, one of the problems is, I think, and it is, I mean, nobody is, unless you absolutely are a kind of unthinking Neanderthal racist, going to condone that kind of language or sexist language, homophobic language. But it's this notion we have now of hate crime, which I find very disturbing, because hate crime in British law, as I understand it, is subjective. So if I feel somebody might be offended, even if I'm not personally, I can then make a complaint. And of course, the way the police work is that's quite an easy, soft target. That isn't like going out to find, after a big detective's trail and fingerprints, like burglars or drug pushers or whatever. That's, I say that person said that, I don't like it. They go around and at the very least they get a caution and they get something on a record. And you think, we're heading down the Orwellian path towards the thought police.
I don't think you're heading down it. I mean, the concept of hate crime means I can somehow look into your mind and your motive and discern that it was inspired by, driven by hatred. We don't know what inspires necessarily. I mean, we just had this incident in Austin, Texas. We had a series of bombs that went off. They finally tracked it down to this 23-year-old kid who was homeschooled and then dropped out of the community college. He left behind a video, according to press reports. He specifically didn't say anything about hatred or racism, whatever. It was mostly self-loathing, like he felt like he was nobody, whatever. So do we know? I mean, he said it on a tape. What's that prove? That doesn't prove anything. How do you know there wasn't hate there? So are we going to hook people to the hate-o-meter and go, hey, you pinged a 9.7, pal. You're going to jail because we decided you're a hater. How about this? This is a crazy idea. How about punish people for things they do, not what they think, not what they say, but what they do. And if you want to sit at home and be an idiotic racist or homophobe, or you want to hate white people and think that they're white devils, whatever you want to do, you hate away. But until you go out and punch somebody or steal their stuff, whatever, we don't care. We're just going to ignore you.
Although, of course, we do have the similar notions, our two countries, of a reputation being something that's valuable. So we have libel laws, but your law, I think, is much more in tune with the way things should be, because you have the notion of absence of malice, don't you? Which doesn't pertain in British law. In British law, you libel somebody if you damage them, if you bring them into the hatred, ridicule and contempt of right-thinking people, or damage them in their office, trade or profession. Even if that's done without malice, people can be sued an immense amount of money. Lawyers make a fortune. The American system, I think, guarantees a much freer press.
Absolutely. And not only that, but if you're a public figure, you are, in essence, incapable of suing for libel and slander. It's almost impossible. And the theory is that if you're a public person, people know who you are. So someone's mocking you or attacking you or whatever. This is part of that kind of open engagement. And you can go out in the media again and defend yourself. So if you're just like a local shop owner, and for whatever someone maliciously decides they want to trash you and your shop, whatever, well, then you can fight and defend yourself, because how else can you defend yourself? But if you're, Donald Trump, or if you're Michael Graham, whatever, you can head to a microphone and defend yourself. You don't need any legal protections. And it means a lot fewer libel and slander cases here in the United States.
In fact, a number of defence barristers or prosecution barristers in the past, in cases over here, will sometimes quote Shakespeare. They say, "Who steals my purse steals trash, but filch but my good name, and you've ruined my life," and stuff. What they never point out is, these ignoramuses, is that speech is taken from Othello, and it's uttered by the worst villain Shakespeare created, Iago. Yeah, Iago. So why do they use that to try and persuade somebody that, oh, my client's good name has somehow been overshadowed or besmirched? Anyway,
because they're lawyers. That's why.
Yeah,
lawyers will say and do anything whatever they want.
Now, you mentioned Donald Trump. Let's start with a bit of a roundup, if we may, of what he's been up to this week. Now, just after 1 o'clock, we had an American academic, but he's lived in this country for a number of years, who is very, shall we say, critical in a satirical way about some of the POTUS's decisions. He was in Saudi Arabia this week. We've had more Stormy Daniels stuff, and we've also had an awful lot of tariff talk. Front page of the Financial Times this morning over here, Michael, is Trump targets robots and drugs in latest swipe at Chinese imports. He wants a 25% tariff across 10 strategic sectors. What's going on? What's his thinking on this?
We're very concerned about drug-addled robots coming to the United States and stealing our jobs.
Because they might fall in those potholes, mightn't they? And then they could sue.
Exactly. Yeah, they won't even make it here. They'll stumble in your potholes, and they won't even make it to the United States. So China has been stealing intellectual property. You could argue that the Chinese government, and based on the people I know who work in this area, they argue that Chinese culture just simply doesn't recognize the idea of intellectual property.
That's handy. That's useful, isn't it? That's a great get out of jail.
Well, then, so the net result is that, someone spends a bunch of hours researching some software, and China gets a hold of one copy and makes 1 million copies of it. So we're trying to punish them, and we're trying to punish them in a way that is somewhat nuanced and targeted. The steel and aluminum tariff, or aluminium tariffs, excuse me.
Thank you. God bless.
They're supposed to be a sledgehammer. If you notice, Trump hasn't really dropped it yet. He's talking about imposing these tariffs, but there's a lot of wiggle room. This time, I think it's more he let his policy wonks do their job, and they went right after China and said, "You guys are cheating. We're going to punish you." China's announced that they are going to, to strike back, and they're going to try to target industries that affect states that Trump carried, which is very clever of China. We'll see, though, who has the might, because as of right now, China needs inflows of American money more than America needs inflows of Chinese money.
Okay, and it was also in Saudi Arabia, and I thought that was slightly odd, if not a little sad. He kind of held up almost a show and tell board in front of the Prince of Saudi Arabia, like you see contestants in the Dragon's Den or The Apprentice try and do a flowchart. But I'm thinking, A, you're the president, but B, where's your audio visuals? Where's the holograms? Why has he got something you could have bought from, Home Depot?
Oh, that was the improvement. He was going to try to do it on an Etch-a-Sketch. That's a real problem right there. Look, here's the deal. Donald Trump is a kind of fly by the seat of his pants guy. Who knows if he thought of doing what he wanted to do 2 minutes before he had the meeting. So you just got to be ready. Look, this time yesterday, H.R. McMaster had the job as National Security Advisor. Now he knows his last day is in 2 weeks. And John Bolton, the guy I love and will always love, because he's the guy that said that if you wiped out 5 floors of the UN tomorrow, it wouldn't do any harm and would probably do some good. And so I love that guy and his attitude.
Is he the guy with the ridiculous white moustache?
I would not say it's ridiculous. I would say it's prominent.
I mean, he looks to me, there's a W.C. Fields film in which he is a con man. He's always a con man. And he works as a ventriloquist and he wears a moustache that covers his whole mouth. Do you think when this blows over for John Bolton, he could do a vent act on American Vaudeville?
I think the mustache is in over here. I am annoyed by it. I'm not a facial hair guy. And over here, man, it is like everybody's either a grizzly or they look like, as you said, they want to be a villain in a black and white film with a woman tied to the railroad tracks and the piano music in the back. And he's twirling his Bolton mustache and going, curses foiled again. So.
Okay, let's turn, if you may, now to the front cover, and this is perhaps a more serious story. Front cover of the Time magazine, the most recent one I've seen, has got some students from the Parkland, Florida high school, which was, of course, they were victims and their friends died in that dreadful shooting. And the March for Our Lives is happening, I think, this weekend, isn't it? In the States?
Saturday, yes, yeah. This Saturday.
So do we think that's going to achieve anything? I mean, there has been a lot of continued press focus on the aftermath of that shooting, but the news caravan always moves on. Will this lead to changes, do you think, Michael?
Well, one thing that happened is there's been a push for a while to tighten up the background checks for buying guns over here. And it's actually in this new spending bill that's working its way through Congress right now. So you could argue that the fact that anything happened is a sign of progress. But what's concerning me is the kids have been told by their teachers and by activists that they can get things like a ban on the purchase of, commonly bought weapons. That's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen not because the evil NRA is buying up all the politicians. It's not going to happen because thus far, most Americans don't support wide-scale bans on purchasing guns. The people who are elected are more afraid of the gun activist vote than they are of the gun control vote. And if you think about it, we're like this as people. If you have an issue you really care about, you'll run out and you'll vote on that one issue. Whereas a lot of voters kind of have like 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 opinions, and no one powers us up. So right now, the people who support gun rights are motivated. They show up and vote. And as a result, the democratic process responds, because that's how it's supposed to work. And I don't think these kids have had to explain to them what it's really like. I think they have kind of a naive view that if they are just really earnest and they have these marches and they're on TV a lot, that will change the dynamic. The dynamic is the American people think you should have the right to own a gun. They want certain restrictions on what kinds of guns and maybe how many and stuff like that, but they fundamentally support the right to keep and bear arms. They just do.
Okay, now let's talk about the phone call between President Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin. Apparently there was some note that says, do not congratulate. His first thing was, oh, congratulations, Vladimir, you've done very well indeed.
Because that's Donald Trump. It's like having a 7-year-old for president of the United States. As soon as you tell him don't do it, he's going to do. If they put up a sign that said don't stick a fork in this light socket, the next thing you'd see at the White House would be like blinking lights and smoke would be coming out and the emergency room guys would be running in. That's just how he is, and it's embarrassing. In other words, I'm not defending it. I'm mocking it and rolling my eyes up. That's how it is. I am of two minds on this. One is, right now, Trump is doing tough stuff to Russia. We're actually sanctioning them. We're serious about it. Bad things are happening for Russia, and that's good. The UK stepping up. I got to tell you, Theresa May is being tougher than I thought, and I love Boris calling out the whiff of Nazism, if you will, from the way that Vladimir Putin governs. On the other hand, if nice words can get a good outcome, if we could somehow save lives in Syria, if we could somehow, pull back in the Ukraine, get the Russians pull back in Ukraine, and all you got to do is, brown nose Vladimir Putin a little bit, then do it. If Trump were only doing one, if you were only sucking up to the guy, or if you were only sanctioning the guy, I would wonder about that. It doesn't bother me. You get on the phone, you say nice things to the guy. Maybe later he feels better about you and does something. I don't think so with Putin. That's not Putin's modus operandi. But it doesn't bother me as long as when it comes to policy, the tough policy is there.
But what about this whole notion of rigged elections, problems here in the UK, and more than problems down in Salisbury and Wiltshire with nerve agents being used? I mean, the news reports of these are now changed slightly. They're now saying of Russian design or development rather than Russian manufacture. So maybe there are questions to be asked there. But surely only an idiot would say congratulations to a man who's been elected for the fourth time and accused of ballot stuffing.
Once again, like I said, if the brown nosing is going to serve some purpose, then I don't mind a little brown nosing.
Okay. And what's on your show with us tomorrow night, Mark? It's always a fantastic listen.
Well, we are going to talk about some of the things you and I just talked about, including this notion of defending free speech, also advocating the idea that you can have an honest conversation about climate change without either A, saying there's no such thing and it was all made up by the liberal, or B, we have to shut down every business in Britain and send everybody home because our carbon is killing the world. We're going to have real live conversation with real live numbers and arguments about that very topic.
In fact, we've got a hugely brained academic called Professor Sir Brian Hoskins from the Grantham Institute at Imperial College London talking about climate change in about 20 minutes' time. So hopefully you can listen out for that. Great to talk to you. Michael Graham, they're our favourite. Catch him tomorrow night. He's a leading American journalist, broadcaster. He's now with us here, part of the Talk Radio, slightly mutant family, not so much the Waltons as the Addams family. And he's our American correspondent with you tomorrow night from 10. He's a legend. Michael Graham, have a great night. Thank you very much indeed.